You know, they really don't make iconic shonen like they used to. Sure, you have your My Heroes, the Attack on Titans, and whatever this is, but truly, there haven't been any icons. I mean, you know it's bad when they continue running completed series into the grave. Speaking of which, Dragon Ball, a staple anime shonen beloved by many, held in high regard because of its quality and nostalgia. Picture this, you're the ripe age of 7 years old. You don't have cable, and only have the local antenna channels. But every Saturday at the ripe time of 6 AM, the Fox channel turned to 4Kids TV, and cartoons aired till noon. Quietly, you sneak into the living room, barely making an audible sound, not even a breath, to watch those spare few cartoons that, you know, weren't PBS Kids. You don't know it at the time, but these cartoons, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Beyblade, Sonic X, and of course, Dragon Ball Z, would eventually spiral on ruining your life later on down the line. But in that moment, those cartoons, later to be known as anime, were etched into your brain, showing you fantasy and action like you've never seen before. I mean, better than Peppa Pig, yo. The one that stuck out the most, though, was definitely a story of an alien protecting the Earth from his alien brethren, killing a goddamn space tyrant, and then a giant cockroach while defending the Earth. Dragon Ball had action, stakes, and characters that your little child pea-brain could understand. It's been described as many things: the GOAT, chaotic, violent, disruptive to children. But if you've watched it through, you know why. So what is Dragon Ball? Well, for those of you who've been in the hypercaustic line zapper, the year is 1984. Ronald Reagan is re-elected for his second term as president, Nintendo releases Duck Hunt for the SNES, and Akira Toriyama debuts Dragon Ball in Weekly Shonen Jump, using ideas present from Journey to the West and many martial arts movies. Toriyama had struck gold with the series, continuing serialization from 1984 all the way to 1995, amounting to 519 chapters, 42 volumes of manga, and later being adapted into a two-part anime series called Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, produced now by the infamous Toei Animation, responsible for visuals such as no, and this. Alright, now I shouldn't rag on them too hard. I get making anime is hard, but, you know, feeding your animators is definitely a start. While Dragon Ball was very lucrative for Toriyama, he only kept going with serialization as the series became more popular, originally expecting to end the series after only a year. It seemed as every arc neared a conclusion, a rumor was going around that they'd end the series, but there weren't any official statements. Kinda like my dating life. The series had gone through a lot, a roller coaster of emotions. Some characters had grown, others died, and new ones were introduced. Feeling like a natural passing of time, the series finally ended after the Buu arc on a time skip where we see all of our characters aged up and stronger than they were before, ending on a farewell from Goku, implying we'd see him again with a protege to guard the Earth in his stead. Now that's nice, but here's the problem. This piece of shit series right here. Now look, I'm all for continuation of Dragon Ball. Better animation, new and interesting stories with more world building and characters, but my Battle of Gods, what in the flying Shenron is this? The Battle of Gods movie, okay, new transformation, time limit, different set of rules, and an antagonistic side character and mentor to help the main cast grow, I get it. Resurrection F, Frieza's revived, good idea. He trains and achieves a new form, I'm vibing with it. So to counter that, we gave Goku another new form? Why? The power scaling at the end of the Buu saga was already atrocious, why throw it deeper into the shitter? The introduction of God Ki was welcome, but the need to add something on top of that, which is a transformation but not really, cause it's just mastered God Ki, ooh. Never officially explained, by the way. Makes it unnecessarily confusing. Putting that aside, Toei decided it was a good idea to completely remake the movies for the TV series? Huh? I don't usually like recycling either, but at least make the effort. I have nothing against recapping previous events into 2, maybe 3 episodes. It serves as a refresher and brings new viewers up to speed, but going as far as to run the previous movies over 2 cores is crazy. To put that into perspective, Super began June 2016. We only got new content January 2017. That's a little over 6 months were spent on recap. of content we have already seen. Now, I know the Dragon Ball fanbase is old with some screws loose, but they don't have dementia. There's a reason I need to bring this up though. Battle of Gods and Resurrection F have the worst animation out of the entire series. Keyframes were rushed, in-betweens were sloppy, characters went off model, the animation was all around very sloppy, and not in a good way. The worst part about it was knowing there was better animation out there in the form of the movies. Eventually, these issues were kind of fixed in the Blu-ray, but the damage had already been done. Now, the following arcs were overall very good, but not great or iconic like Frieza, Android, Cell, or Boo. During the Universe 6 arc, we're introduced to new characters, all of whom's designed I feel were a little lazy or lacking, besides the Iron Giant over here. We have Beta Frieza, Bing Chilling. We have Beta Frieza, Bing Chilling, Trenchcoat, and Cabo, whose concept I like, but his design is just awful. Hit and Cabo both were great additions, providing interesting techniques and concepts. These designs, though, look like they took Toriyama less time than you could say Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan. Hit's design is just cooler in a trench coat, and look, I get that Toriyama's art style has slimmed down a bit, but why does Cabo look malnourished? Cabo's proportions are wonk. Comparing him to Teen Gohan at the start of Buu Saga, who at this point is 17, the same age if not younger than Cabo, Cabo looks like a child. Big head, lanky limbs, weak silhouette, kinda like the average Reddit user. I mean, look at this. Credit to you, Dream Onto, and Totally Not Mark. That aside though, Universe 6's tournament arc was a solid introduction into what the rest of the series would be like. Good fights, decent pacing, and solid world building. Reaching the end of the arc feels natural, but right after we finish this arc, there's a couple filler and we go into the next one immediately, and it feels very jarring. Okay, this might be hard to understand, so let me explain. In Dragon Ball Z, Raditz shows up, dies, contacts Vegeta and Nappa. They show up, Nappa and Piccolo die, Vegeta escapes. Because Piccolo is dead, they need to wish him back with the Namekian Dragon Balls. They stumble upon Frieza, who wants a refund on his pizzas, gets bodied by Trunks, and then there's androids. You see what I mean? The arcs kind of mesh together and have a reason, rather than cold open on future Trunks' timeline getting obliterated by evil Goku. Right after an episode about Vegeta sucking a pacifier to stop weird jelly men from stealing his body, this trend continues for the rest of the series. Alright, the Goku Black arc had a good introduction, a great setup, fantastic pacing, fights, and plot. However, the ending was just okay. I mean, when you deal with time travel, everything sort of gets a bit wonk, so I'll give it a pass. Kind of like Trunks' hair. And finally, the 60 episode long Universe Survival arc. Twice as long as the Goku Black arc, 3 times as long as the fight against Frieza, and nowhere near as good as either of them. Now the arc's setup and plot are good, the fights are great, but the pacing is atrocious, absolutely horrendous, certifiably garbage. Now them's fighting words, so let me explain. Before going into the actual tournament, there's this halfway between meeting / preliminary, which isn't a bad idea, but then they go through these filler episodes where they recruit representatives for the tournament. Now this would be okay if it was sort of like Raditz being the precursor in the Saiyan saga, or the time in between the Cell games, which both were maybe 5 episodes, but instead we have 20 full episodes before the Tournament of Power even begins. I mean, I've heard of stretching out to build hype, but this is the equivalent of edging for a week. The Tournament of Power begins really well. The action is constant, the character interactions are great, but then it just takes a super hard break, killing the pacing. What's worse is we slow down at some garbage fights, the type that are cannon fodder, the equivalent of Smurf matches or mid-lane feeding. Episodes 102 to 110 could have been 3, maybe even 2 episodes. From then on, everything is golden standard Dragon Ball though. Maybe even better. Except, Mr. A. Lamau. Now, fights are a two-sided battle. It's one thing to have 2 dudes slap box, but the key thing that makes or breaks an anime fight is ideals. Ideals are the cornerstone of conflict. 2 sides who think they are justice, those who want to change the status quo, and those who just want to see the world burn. So why does Jiren have the conviction and resolve of a 5-year-old child? I mean, it's just one thing to fight for the survival of your universe, I mean, I get that, but Jiren's only want is his 3 IQ wish granted by the Super Dragon Ball, stating multiple times in his encounters, "I want to know what lies beyond strength." I mean, it's the most selfish, arrogant, and idiotic wish imaginable. It's like asking the meaning behind life, the meaning behind creation, or hell, why hasn't my dad come back from the gas station yet? It's just a concept. You have the power of creation in your hand, why would you want to know the reason behind it? I mean, let's look at Frieza's wish to be immortal. It makes sense. He's narcissistic, greedy, and powerful. Why would he want to give up a life where he can take and do anything he wants? Vegeta's wish to be immortal as well. Narcissistic, arrogant, and wants to kill Frieza, the one who destroyed his heritage. At that point in time, he would need much more strength or a way to not die. These motivations help reinforce their wishes. They don't just want immortality, they need a way to live forever. They would do anything to get their hands on a power like that. This is why Jiren isn't an effective antagonist. He has strength but no passion. Now look, Dragon Ball is a great series. I grew up watching it. I get nostalgia over Z, and I still remember when I was 11 trying to do a Kamehameha. Don't lie, we've all tried to do it at least once. But with recent releases, the Moro arc ending and the Granola arc starting, I can see a steady decline in quality. Like, the Broly movie was good, but there's only so much you can do with the character. I mean, it's a shame with the new animation techniques, the fights look stellar, but the passion behind the characters has greatly diminished. Now, I didn't talk about this much, but Goku seems a lot more like his TFS counterpart than himself recently. I mean, I'd start to lose brain cells too if I had to fight a mountain.